share any personal information. You don't have to receive unwanted texts, calls, emails to your personal information that you may or may not have shared. And you can say, please don't bother me with this information. Please don't ask me to join. I don't want a union at this store. All of those things are fair for you to say if that's what you believe and that's what you would like. If the union becomes used, and regardless of whether or not that you want to pay those, or if your partner next door or beside you wants to, if that goes to a vote and it's 50% or more majority, then you are part of that union regardless.
You're listening to 4315, a podcast about empowering workers and exposing the union-busting industry. Presented by Labor Lab. For more information and resources about the right to unionize and how to protect it, visit laborlab.us.
My name's Adam Ryan. I work at store 1292 in Christiansburg, Virginia. I've been at Target for over 5 years now, and I think my title is still general merchandise expert, but I've been lumped in with the inbound team. So basically what that means is I'm helping unload the trucks when they're dropped off, sorting, stocking the shelves, assisting guests, answering backup calls to the registers, answering phone calls, jumping in other departments like our fulfillment team to do online orders. Basically whatever and wherever they need me, I'm trying to step up and fill is my expectations.
So my name is Mary Yarn, and I work at store 0618 in Pueblo, Colorado. I've been with the store for 2 years, but was also with them seasonally in 2019 as a front-end team member. So basically, at that time, I was cashiering, working at guest service. And then when I came back in 2020, I came back as a front-end team member again. And throughout my first year, from October 2020 up until November 2021, I did what was called developing, and I developed into the role of service and engagement team lead, and that's currently what I do now, and I've been doing that for almost a year. So basically I oversee and kind of lead the front end team, all of our cashiers and guest advocates, anyone who works at guest service, our card attendants, anything like that.
Adam, so your store filed to unionize, and then the petition was withdrawn shortly after. Can you give us a brief synopsis on why you and your coworkers wanted to unionize and why the petition was withdrawn?
So I had started a card drive campaign sort of the end of 2021, beginning of this year, around the Omicron surge and pushing for hazard pay. They took away our hazard pay, even though they told us to wear masks again after there was that brief period where the CDC said you could take it off. And they took away the hazard pay with that as well, even though Omicron was surging. And so I was working on that, but then eventually it subsided, right? There was the spike, and then it went down a little bit towards the beginning of the year. And then I had a group of veteran team members who've been there long term, 5, 10, 15 years, come up to me saying they wanted seniority pay. And they wanted my help to try to win this demand, but they made it pretty clear they didn't want it to turn into a union campaign. So I worked with them on their terms, and we gathered signatures for a petition. We issued it to management. We issued it to the regional manager. We issued it to Brian Cornell. Didn't get any response. And then I basically put the call out to the general public and supporters to call and email both the general district manager and Cornell, telling them to meet our demand. And then after about 2 days of that, we finally got some sort of response from the corporate human resources person, and they sort of just tried to act like they didn't understand what the issue was, and they wanted to try to make every worker call them individually and identify themselves and speak to them as to what their specific issues were, as if they didn't know. Like we were saying, in the petition for seniority pay, was we wanted this amount of wage increase for 5 and 10 plus year employees, and if we don't get that, then we're gonna take further action. And they just sort of tried to ignore all that. And once it became clear to us that they were not really going to even give us a no answer and just sort of drag it out, that's when I switched it back into like a union card authorization drive. I had set up an IWW local in my area, the New River Valley, where I function as the branch secretary treasurer. And so that gives me the, legal status to print out authorization cards and gather signatures for them under the banner of the IWW. And so then after, like I said, it became clear they were not going to even give us a no answer on that seniority pay petition. I just basically was telling coworkers, like, look, the only way they legally have to negotiate with us on something like seniority pay is if we sign these cards and win a vote. And then by law, they have to negotiate in good faith with us. So that was kind of a logical extension after they had seen they're not going to get anywhere just trying to use Target's open door policy to get seniority pay. Because some workers really thought, because we're constantly told by management, hey, we have an open door. If you have any issues, come talk to us. They thought, well, if we just do this, management will respond and we'll win our demand. But when they saw that they just got ignored, well, then they realized it was going to take a little more effort. So that's why, I was getting folks to sign the authorization cards. We were very close to reaching 30%, but then we had a complication of several factors, like some folks didn't fill out the cards properly with their legal names, so those were tossed out. Then we had some people quit by the time we filed, so that dropped the numbers down. And then we had a bunch of seasonal workers hired on, so that raised up the total number of employees for the 30% threshold. So the National Labor Relations Board agent told us basically we were still below that 30% threshold. We could either have gone forward with our hearing and we would just automatically have been shut out, and then we would have to have lost a year before we could refile again, or we could voluntarily withdraw the petition for the election, work on getting more signatures, and refile at a later point. So that's what we chose to do.
Mary, do you see any crossovers with Adam's answer regarding why workers at your store are trying to unionize?
Well, honestly, so when I got my promotion, I got to see the management side of Target behind the scenes, and it wasn't what I was expecting at all. And to be quite honest, I was pretty disappointed. Target portrays themselves to the public as this humanitarian type company when they don't even treat their employees that way. The whole reason organizing came about at my store was as a lead, I have more responsibilities, but my hands are still tied in a lot of situations. So for instance, at the beginning of the year, the company announced, they said, hey, guess what? We're lowering the required hours for health benefits. You only have to average 25 hours a week now. But soon after that, they were dropping people's hours below 25 hours a week. And then I had a lot of my team members, complaining to me about lack of hours. They weren't getting the hours they thought they were going to get. I can't do anything about that. I cannot, I don't make the schedule. I don't have access to it. I can't make it. I can't give hours. Another thing that they were frustrated about was the lack of staff. They were like, hey, we only have 3 people closing tonight. I'm like, yeah, I know. We're just going to kind of have to make do and push through it. At the front end, that's very hard. Closing with 3 people, 1 person on a register, 1 person at self-checkout, 1 person at guest service. And between these 3 people, they all have to take turns taking breaks, taking lunches, which in turn makes it a worse experience for our guests who come shopping in the store because they're like, how come there's no cashiers? Why do I have to use self-checkout? How come nobody's available at guest service? Well, because the guest service person is also responsible to take out drive-up orders. It was a lot of stuff like that, things that I wanted to help with but couldn't help with. And I knew that something I did have control over and something that I could do was getting the store organized. And that's when I looked into unionizing us.
Well, so just out of curiosity, why are they only having 3 people run the front end? Why are they understaffing you? Are they just being cheap, or is there some kind of a reason for it?
I guess you could say they're being cheap. So here's the thing. This is something that I learned in my new position at the store. If we keep payroll low, management makes bonuses. And I kind of found this out the hard way. I was maybe a month or 2 into my new position at the time, and I had one of my front end people call out. It was a very important call out because he was our cart attendant. The cart attendant does a lot for us. They clean the restrooms, they take out the trash, they empty the hanger bin, they help if we need backups up front, they bring in the carts that the guests use to shop with. When I tried getting his shift covered, because I knew what it would mean for the front end, if we didn't have someone in that position for the day, we'd struggle. And when another member of management found out that I was trying to get that shift covered, they were really upset about me filling those hours. I think their exact words to me at the time were something along the lines of, I guess you didn't get the email. I said, what email? They said, well, about payroll, like we have this many hours that we're over on. And I think it was like almost 300 hours that we were over. This person's shift was 8 hours that were already accounted for. So it wouldn't have made a difference in the scheme of things. But payroll is a huge issue. And this particular member of management was like, I guess we're not going to make bonus now. And I didn't realize that management was okay with departments and team members struggling just so they could make these bonuses. I mean, of course, I love extra money like anybody else, but not at the expense of my fellow employees, my team members. It was baffling to me.
Yeah, no, that's astounding and infuriating. Like, yeah, of course, everybody wants extra money. Like, if you can get a bonus in your position, like, cool, good for you, that's awesome. But it's like you said, like, why at the expense of other people? Like, the whole team suffers. So you guys are trying to organize, trying to unionize, but management has been doing a lot to stop you from unionizing, and it's been reported that you've been looking into filing ULPs over this. So how has management been responding? Like, what are they doing? And do you know if they've hired any union busting lawyers? Like, what kind of tactics are they trying to use to break this up?
Target is kind of a unique company, I would say, in terms of how a corporation or business would respond to worker activity like this. Because, like Mary was saying, they try to present themselves as so, like, woke and progressive. It's sort of tied their hands on how they can respond. They don't want to be seen as, like, aggressive towards the employees, so that gives us some leeway in what we've been doing. And I mean, I've been there 5 years engaging in some form of organizing at Target, and like I've never been fired for it, right? They tried to discipline me one time. They pulled me into the office early on when all this was happening. because I had invited a worker to a labor rights meeting because we were trying to explain to workers, like, how is it that we're allowed to be able to picket at the store entrance? How is it that we're allowed to, like, say and do these things? And explain that to them. Well, one of the workers, like, went and narked on us to management, and then management tried to use that as an excuse to say we were, like, harassing workers by verbally asking them if they wanted to come to one of these meetings. And so we were able to, like, file charges and say, like, hey, you can't even talk to us about this, right? Like, these are our rights to discuss this with our coworkers. If you let workers talk about sports or whatever else, you can't restrict our ability to talk about, organizing or anything like that. So we won a settlement in 2018 or so over that. We've had that in place since. They ended up breaking that settlement, or at least that's what we're arguing currently. And that was after, like, us filing for the election. And even before then, we found out they had designed this, like, anti-union training for managers. It's like a module you can see on our website at targetworkersunite.com. Apparently they've pulled it off of their database for training modules now because we can't find it anymore. But it gives you a sense of, like, how they try to instruct management to look out for signs of organizing, how to respond. Initially that just started with them, like, kind of aggressively questioning us, like, how do we like things at the store? Do we have any questions about any of the new benefits that they're rolling out? That sort of thing. But then, when we finally filed for the petition for the election, that's when they flew in managers from all across our state and had, it felt like just as many managers as non-management workers on the floor, like, using the huddles to talk about the union and mischaracterize it. And, we're in a right-to-work state in Virginia, meaning, like, no one can be forced to join a union as a term of employment anywhere in the state of Virginia. That's right-to-work laws. And they were trying to talk about, like, how if the union got elected in, actually workers would have to join the union in order to work there. They overinflated the amount of dues and talking about, like, how workers would have to pay, over $500 a month. And then especially in these times with high inflation, that's a lot of money, even though it, like, doesn't even cost that much. Like, the IWW has some of the lowest dues out of all unions out there. And, like, you can even get your dues waived for, like, emergency circumstances if you just really can't afford it.
I had a question to take it back. You had mentioned that Target had their anti-union training module on their website.
Well, they're like, Target has its own database of training modules we're all required to take annually, regularly, routinely. But this one was specifically for management. The reason I was able to find it is because some of the internal emails of management were leaked to me, talking about how, once they knew I was, like, getting card signature signed back in last January is when I first started, they started instructing management to take this, like, introduction to labor relations is what the training was called. But I was able to access it after I found that email because I looked it up in the database, pulled it up, and then we were able to, like, go through the whole module, see every slide, every answer, what they wanted, indicate to workers what is the right answer, because a lot of times they have these, like, multiple choice tests at the end to try to test you to see if you've really digested the material. So we were able to get access to all of that, and then we leaked that through our website, targetworkersunite.com. And then I think I had shared the YouTube videos with you of the captive audience meetings we had at our store.
Yeah, you did. And I wanted to, I do want to get back to Mary and see what the meetings are like over there. But before we do that, you mentioned the meetings at your store, and I did listen to that audio. And while I was listening to that audio, all I could think about was, wow, this sounds almost verbatim to what we went through at No Evil Foods. Like, these talking points, even the manager sounded like the manager we had.
Same people.
It's the same. It was the same exact thing, almost to a T. Some of the notable stuff that I found to be kind of a comparison was you don't have to sign anything. You don't have to receive unwanted calls and unwanted texts from the union, you can tell them, please don't bother me. I'm not interested. And that right there, I've noticed that that's a theme in the way that they structure these conversations around unions, because what they'll do is they'll say, you don't have to talk to these people. If they're bothering you, you don't have to talk to them. And they set it up like that because this way, once you go and talk to somebody who's in the union or who might be interested in the union, right off the bat, they're thinking in their head, oh my God, like this is a sales pitch. I'm not interested.
Am I being harassed?
Am I being harassed?
Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
It works. You know, I had workers who literally, after hearing that, and, you know, one of the things that was interesting at our store is, you know, we've gone through several store managers. You know, we organized a strike to get out our old store manager who was abusive towards, like, women workers and made, like, xenophobic remarks, racist remarks towards, like, Latino workers, like comments against, you know, like Black Lives Matter as like the protests were surging over the last like 10 years or so, putting his hands on women workers, making just, you know, inappropriate, derogatory comments. And then they brought in this interim manager from a nearby city in Roanoke who was the former store director there. And so he was the interim manager. And then eventually he got promoted to a corporate office up in Richmond, Virginia. And then they promoted the assistant manager to the store director position. And she's actually the one who hired me when I came on. And she had a relatively decent like connection with a lot of the workers there. And when we filed for the election, like she had left to go to another store. They brought her back, and they brought the prior manager before her back, because they were trying to rely on what the corporation thought were the personal connections those two were able to develop with our workers to convince them to be against this. And they did like you were just saying, like they say, you know, I don't want to be bothered. Tell them I don't want to be bothered, and I don't want to have to give my money to something. And, you know, like their connection, their relationships with some of these workers were definitely strong enough to just like taint those workers' impression of this idea of what a union is or being involved, even though it's like, this would be in your interest, you know, like we can get you higher wages, better benefits, better working conditions, but you have bought into this narrative because of the emotional manipulation that the corporation employs by using these two managers to push them against us. You know, it's crazy, you know, but it's effective. It works on workers. It really does.
Okay, and Mary, kind of same question, like, what has it been like with management, like upper management? How have they been reacting to the organizing drive, and what kind of things have they been doing to try to stop you guys from organizing?
What are they saying in the anti-union meetings? I'm just very curious if there's any parallels.
So the anti-union meetings they've been having, that has slowed down a lot, especially the last few weeks. In the beginning, it started very slowly. I had found out very quickly that I was ratted on, I guess, for lack of better words. And so those first couple days, first week, we just had a lot of district people in the store, district HR, regional HR, and they came in and they were kind of playing it as, oh, this is something we're going to be doing quarterly now, blah, blah, blah. And they went around asking the team members to rate the store morale on a scale of 1 to 10. And, you know, we had a few team members who were very vocal in the stuff that they're pissed off about. And then we had other team members just kind of play the role of, no, everything's great. We love Target, blah, blah, blah. And then I had my leadership meeting on what we're supposed to do and what we were allowed to do as leaders during a union campaign. So I kind of had to sit through that. And
Wait, slow down, please. Slow down. Please tell me more about that. I am dying to know what they're feeding to like middle management about this kind of stuff.
It was all very textbook. And I kind of knew what to expect. It was just very awkward because I knew that they knew it was me and they knew that I knew. It was just very awkward. They said that we were, they used a lot of acronyms. They used the acronym TIPS, things that we couldn't do. We couldn't threaten employees. We couldn't intimidate employees. We couldn't make promises to employees. The other acronym they used was FOE.
Facts, opinions, and experiences. So for facts, you're more than welcome to share any facts that you know about a union. So you could share that, hey, as a union member, you have to pay dues. That's a known fact, so you're more than welcome to share that. And also when it comes to opinion, so however you feel about unions, you can also share that. So for me, if I was going to share my opinion when asked, or if I just wanted to share, I would share, I don't feel like Target necessarily needs a union, because I feel like we can come together, solve issues together as a team, and we don't need a third party to be able to do that. That's my personal opinion, and I can share that. And then experiences. So if you have any experience with a union in the past, or maybe your family does, you can also share those.
So one of the members of management that they brought in from a store about an hour away from us, he used to be a native here. He's from our town. And it was very disappointing to hear him say, yeah, my dad used to work at the steel mill. He used to be a union president. And, and he kind of like played it in a way as if, he made it seem bad when, I talk to people. Our town is relatively small. His dad was actually very proud of his union. And so it's almost disgusting, because I'm like, how are you sitting here saying these things and going around and discouraging employees? I think it's just... It's just appalling to me that he could say all those things and know where he truly comes from. It's sad. It's very sad. The first couple of it's very hard for me because they have me in a position there where they are trying to label me as a supervisor, because on paper, technically, if I was a supervisor, I cannot be represented by the union.
Yeah, they don't want you in that voting pool.
They do not. And one of the first things they said in that leadership meeting was, and she made sure to make this very clear, was that it was unlawful for supervisors to engage in any type of union activity. So I tread lightly, and I do play the role when I'm there with them. Like, I don't rebuttal them in huddles in their captive audience meetings. I encourage team members to do so, which is hard because they're scared. They are scared because management did a good job at terrifying them into thinking that this is a bad thing. Such as, so when I give team members, information to put in the break room, we have other team members, veteran team members, who are upset about the union because of the lies management has told them. So they'll throw away any literature I have put in there. I think during a few of the first few meetings, the store manager compared signing union cards to joining a gym.
I was like super stoked to sign up for this gym, and I went in there. They were so nice, they were so fun, so inviting, told me about all these deals that I was gonna have and like all the amenities. It was right by my house with the pool. I was pumped. And I went probably like 3 times. And about like the 4th month in, I was like, they're still charging me. I don't really know if I'm gonna do this. So I had called them and was like, hey, like I want to cancel my membership. It's not something I want to do anymore. Like I'm not really going. And they're like, no, did you not read your contract that you signed at the beginning? And I was pretty young and naive, so I like immediately called my mom. I was like, what did I do? And she's like, oh honey, it's like you need to read what you sign. And that's really kind of like the message I want to preach, because at the end of the day, like I really want to make sure like whatever I'm signing up for, whatever I'm joining, whatever I'm, you know, putting my credit card number to, whatever that might look like I want you guys to educate yourselves, right? So you don't want to, like if something doesn't feel good, or you know somebody's coming up to you maybe trying to persuade you about something, like ask more questions, right? Take that time to research it.
Hold on. No, I'm sorry. I have to stop you right there because we had a fucking manager that did the exact same thing. She told us, quote,
they make it really, really, really hard to stop paying dues. This reminds me of like a really shitty gym membership that you just want to get out of. The stipulations on it are insane.
fucking incredible. Sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like I have had the exact same thing said to me. That is the stupidest fucking thing I have ever heard. Oh my god.
I'm just starting to wonder when No Evil Foods went out of business, maybe all of the managers just went to go work for Target in Colorado.
Holy shit. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on. So they're saying that, it's like a shitty gym membership. What else are they saying?
During one of these meetings, a team member felt the need to express just how Target was such a great company to work for and how they were so good to them and da-da-da-da-da. This exact team member stresses out so much about getting their workload done, which is an insane workload, by the way, that they have clocked out for lunch and gone back onto the floor and worked off the clock because they were scared not to finish their work.
Wow.
Yeah. The reason why these meetings have slowed a lot, like we still have all these outside quote unquote visitors in the store. I like to call them my babysitters because I'm pretty sure they're babysitting me. But there is one veteran team member who is so hell-bent on not having the union, even though she knows nothing about it, and refuses to learn. She was going in on her days off, sitting in the break room, trying to tell other employees, don't do this, don't do this.
And I wonder how they'd react if you tried to do that, going in on your day off, sitting in the break room, trying to educate people about unionization. Because I guarantee that reaction would not be the fucking same.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. It would be stopped immediately.
So let me jump back to Adam and ask, what advice would you give to somebody who is either thinking about organizing or trying to organize their a Target store specifically? Like, what advice would you give someone thinking about doing that?
Send us an email.
I like that. Hit us up.
Join the IWW, and we'll work to get you a one-on-one training, because I think folks just need to get that basic understanding of what labor law is, and then how to use that in a strategic way. And I think the IWW is it's an easy entry point for workers, and they give you the tools on what you got to do, but also with the understanding you're going to have to do the work. And I think that's probably the hardest thing. You're going to have to dedicate time when you're not at work, on your free time, when everybody usually wants to relax and engage in recreation. So really make sure you want to do it. And, Target is a good target. They make themselves kind of vulnerable to workers organizing because they do not want to be seen as hostile to workers. And so you get some leeway, I think, working at Target than you would at maybe even Walmart or some of these other employers where they're not as concerned about if they're seen as a woke company. And so yeah, go join the IWW, reach out to us, get you training, and yeah.
Mary, did you have any? Do you have any advice for anybody that might be thinking about organizing?
It's a love-hate thing, because I don't think I knew what was all encompassed in it. And I honestly, in my little head, I'm like thinking, oh, I'm doing this for my employees, we're gonna like get shit taken care of and they'll have what they deserve. And then someone was like, Target, you're trying to organize at a Target. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, multi-billion-dollar company. And I'm like, yeah. And then it kind of sunk in, and it was like, what am I doing? And every day it's a surprise when I walk into work, because I never know what to expect. And it's just be ready. Like, I used to have major anxiety going into work. I do still, but it's like a different type of anxiety. But you should never feel that way going into a job, no matter where you work at. If anyone else is trying to organize or wanting to organize, really just be brave and tell your fellow employees to be brave, because I know one of the cliche slogans is united we bargain, divided we beg, but it's true. There's safety in numbers. If there's more of us than there is of them, and I wish that all of the employees could see that. And every Target employee is deserving of so much more than what the company is giving them now.
It's very well said.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk to us, guys. We definitely want to stay updated on everything that's going on, and we wish you the best of luck in both of your ongoing campaigns. And yeah, thanks again.